Welcome to the Conscious Pivot Podcast with international speaker, business mentor, best-selling author of Pivot, and your host, Adam Markell. The Conscious Pivot shares the stories and wisdom of people who have successfully reinvented some area of their business and personal life. You'll gain powerful insights into how you can fully embrace new opportunities, increase your performance, and master the art and science of innovation and resilience. So please join Adam as he guides you on your conscious pivot.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Conscious Pivot Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Markell, and I'm super grateful as I sit here in this moment. It's a beautiful sunny morning. I just got back from a exciting weekend retreat where I get together with other people that are in this industry of education. There's a lot of ways to describe it, whether it's business development or personal development. People that are thought leaders, authors, stuff like that. And we get together a couple of times a year for us to recharge our batteries, to just be together, not have to put on, not have to be on, basically. There's a lot of people generating an enormous amount of energy in the world, and they're tireless doing it, and they're teaching, and they're sharing, and, just a lot of spotlights on them at times. And so it's great to be able to, I'll say this kind of funny for people that know me. Go someplace and let your hair down. I'm grateful because it's so easy for me to do that since I have no hair to let down. It's just, I'm already in the mode. I'm usually a pretty chill guy anyway. So, it's good to just have an excuse to chill because I can get wound up just like everybody else. So in this moment, I am very, very grateful to be home, to be sitting in my comfortable chair, about to podcast with a guy that I think is going to give you guys great value, somebody I'm looking forward to learning from and getting to know even better. So he's a new friend, somebody that we have mutual friends, and that's how we got introduced. And I love those synergies in life. I mean, it's just never, ever an accident. This is my personal philosophy. You can, buy into that or not, but I just don't believe there's any randomness. That's not a part of the universal law, the system of things that creates all this beauty that's around us, all this perfection that's around us, and even the imperfection, or what we might term imperfection or judge as imperfection, is really perfection in its totality. If you can just pull back away from the picture, far enough to see the more of the forest than just the trees. So I am grateful for that perspective. I'm grateful to be alive and breathing. And as I'm taking this breath, consciously breathing in deeply and releasing that breath with a bit of a sigh. Maybe you want to do that too, because wherever you're at right now, you could be at work, and maybe you're driving, or maybe it's been a tough day, or it's the end of a day, or whatever it is. It's just always great to take a few deep breaths. I remember that's one of the things we did when we arrived at our retreat, and we were being facilitated. We all kind of take turns in doing that kind of thing, and then we have speakers come in and teach us. And so we're all perpetual students, which is terrific. And one of the things that we were practicing was the breath, was how important it is in any moment to be able to take a deep conscious breath and release the things that are in many ways blocking us, where tension blocks us, stress blocks us, cortisol, the chemical that's produced in our bodies when we are fighting or flighting, when we're doing one of those two reptilian behaviors, those ancient the ancient wiring in our brains that have us running from fear, running from danger, or standing in the moment to fight the good fight. That cortisol takes us over, and it takes our energy. And so when we're in that place, physiologically and mentally, spiritually even, when we're in that place, there's very little space left. There's very little energy left for creativity. So I am really appreciative of the breath and the ability to release those things that are in my way, so that I can have more access to the potential, the vast, unlimited potential of the universe, and the creativity that's everywhere. So with that, I am grateful as well to have a guest this morning. His name is Colin Morgan. And Colin is a professional golfer who turned successful entrepreneur who now runs a company called Plan to Profit with his father, Paul Morgan, and hosts a popular podcast called The Daily Grind. Actually, the Daily Business, I don't know, the Daily Grind Business Podcast. I want to get the whole title there. Daily Grind Business Podcast, which many of you probably have already heard of. If you haven't, then I want you to check that out for sure. Colin is an expert at utilizing storytelling in sales to gain new customers and ultimately increase sales. So, Colin, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here today, buddy.
Adam, super excited to be here. Really love your intro because I do agree with you that we have a lot of tension, stress, anxiety, and even excitement. And I think a lot of those things can cloud our thoughts and in taking information, and being present and calm, especially during an interview like this, is always amazing. So thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, pleasure. So, Colin, there's I love the fact that it was a really short bio. I told you that. I told you that before we even turned the record button on, which is easy for me. And I'm sure people are curious to know a little bit more about you. So if you'd share a little bit more about your personal background, how it is that you, had you dreamed of being a golfer? Was that the thing that you wanted to do when you were 7 years old? And are you still doing that? How long is that expected to be the case? And you're obviously doing this business podcast, the Daily Grind Business Podcast, with which I'm sure is also a passion of yours. So I'd love to know more about you, as well as, and maybe we'll start with this. What's one thing in the moment right now that you're grateful for? And then if you could lead us down that path of where you're at.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I am grateful for a whole bunch, but today I'm grateful for my health. I'm great that all my limbs are functioning and my mind works clearly. My brother-in-law just experienced a big injury yesterday with his knee, so I'm happy to wake up and know that I'm in a good place for myself. In terms of more about myself, yeah, I mean, like you had said, ever since I was probably 3-4 years old, like I always dreamed of being a golfer. Sports have been a big part of my life. It's what drive me for most of my life and that's really all I thought I would do with my life, to be honest. Like in terms of business, never was in my head, even though everyone in my family's an entrepreneur and they were entrepreneurs. Like for me, it was different. Like I always wanted to be a golfer, and I pursued my whole life at doing that. And then kind of came to a point where, obviously things happen in life and things change, and you come to realizations and, conscious pivots, as you call them. And I had to come to the realization that, this golf wasn't for me. I still love it. I still golf, but in terms of competitively trying to reach the PGA Tour, which I always thought that I would reach, I mean, that dream is over. And for a number of years, it was a tough moment for me. Like it was tough to see myself doing anything different. And for a lot of those times, like I really did struggle. I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know how I was going to do anything else. I didn't know, even where to start. And it wasn't until I became more conscious and self-aware and understood what I'm good at, what I'm not good at, taking a lot of the things I learned as a professional golfer in terms of discipline and practice and surrounding yourself with a great team and preparing your mind and body for a round and for a podcast and for a business call. Like a lot of those things I learned as an athlete, I was able to then start transitioning, and it started with self-awareness. And that self-awareness led to being more open to allowing new things to happen in my life. Like I didn't become afraid of, telling people that I'm not a golfer anymore. Like I picked up a bartending job because I needed to make money. Like getting over that, understanding that it doesn't really matter what people think. It's matters about what your life is, and trying new things and developing as the person and in business, relationally. Like all those things are super important, but it stems from self-awareness. And then once that happened for me, it sort of opened me up to realizing that I need to start self-educating myself. Like I don't know everything about everything, which I think a lot of people, that's something that they do, right? They think that, I know the answers to everything. Like I have no idea what I'm doing. I change every single week. I change every day. And I think that's a positive thing. Like, I think it's a positive thing to look back and say, you know what, yesterday I wanted to do this with a webinar that I was doing. And today I just don't think it's the right idea, because I listened to someone and I heard a story and it just made better sense to me. So being able to make those pivots and changes is essential. And it led me to what I'm doing now with my father, Paul, and ultimately starting the Daily Grind Business Podcast, which I run 5 days a week. And I absolutely love what I do. I'm able to speak with some amazing people like yourself, and I'm having Seth Godin on in a couple of weeks, and it's just a really exciting time. And all of that is sort of stemmed from self-awareness, understanding who you are, what you do, and that will lead to better things.
Yeah. Wow. There's so much in what you just said. I'm tracking where I want to where I want to explore a little further. Well, a couple of things. So first of all, if you don't mind, I want to just dive into something that not everybody spends a lot of time on. Frankly, Brene Brown was one of my mentors in terms of being more self-aware of what the heck vulnerability is, and what it really is and where it comes from the standpoint of even the research. She's a researcher, and shame has a lot to do with, our vulnerability. So for just a couple of minutes, it must not have been an easy, as you alluded to, not easy to be on a track heading to professional golf as a career, as a long-term career. People, some of these golfers, they play into the senior tour. Obviously, it's a big part of their identity. You said you started thinking about that as your identity when you're about 3 or 4 years old. So, lead us into that when you realize this dream is not happening. I mean, that's the extreme version of it. You said it. The dream is not going to happen. What was that like for you? Did it lead to some depression? What was it that helped you to kind of shake the like the snow globe? You know how you shake up that snow globe, it gets all cloudy, and then you let things settle and it becomes more clear. What was that process like for you?
Yeah, I mean, from the day that I kind of said like this wasn't for me, I think it was a big buildup, and I think it always is. I think for at least a period of time that things aren't working, that you're not happy, and I look back on it now before we get into it, and it's funny enough where I always thought I wanted to be a professional golfer. I look back now and I'm like, you know what, I probably didn't, and that was something that my parents had invested so much time and money into me. I invested so much time and money into me. I was at a university. I go play professional golf. I'm working. Like every single dollar that I'm making is getting put back into what I'm doing, and I'm not seeing any return. And for a while, you don't ever want to admit that. Like you tell your friends, like, "Oh, I'm great. My game's awesome. I'm sharp. I'm so motivated. Like it's just a matter of time." But in your head that this isn't for me. And when I did come to that final realization, like I was in Arizona, I was playing on a professional mini tour. My brother had come down. I'm 9 holes into this tournament. I'm 4 over, but I'm like completely lost mentally. And, it came to a point where this is a 4-round tournament. And after 9 holes, I looked at my brother and I'm like, this is it, man. Like, I can't do it. Like it's too much. It's too taxing on my body of what I'm doing. I stopped, and I did play some tournaments after that, but that was sort of the moment where I'm like, I stopped, packed my bags, I went home. And now it's like you said, like you go through that time of like, you really are thinking a lot, and it leads to depression. You do things that you shouldn't be doing in terms of, either drinking away your sorrows, as people call it, or, you don't eat properly. You're letting a lot of things go, and you just are stuck in this bubble that you think that what you're going through is the worst thing in the world. And it isn't until you kind of look outside and you're like, this little issue that I have in life is so small. It doesn't really mean anything when you look at the big term of where I am and how others are fighting through their lives. And I've gone through more, but it's like I look at that and I'm saying that I can't treat myself as though I'm a victim. Like I'm not a victim. I am healthy. I'm conscious. I'm smart. I can do whatever I want to do. And I need to start doing those little things every single day, having those little small wins in terms of just get better at something. And I still live by that. I just want to get better at something, whether it's in my business or whether I want to get a little more healthy today. I want to eat clean, or I want to, speak to my parents. Like there's something that I try to focus on every day in order to get better. And those little small incremental steps got me out of that really deep, dark spot. And I started to become more clear when I started to really reach out and look outside of my small bubble, which I thought was my whole world, and realize that there's so much out there. There's so many amazing people out there who can not only help you, but they can kind of guide you in the right direction. And you need those people. But until you understand that you need those people, they won't be there for you.
Yeah, it's interesting. You're in that hole alone. I mean, we've all
Yeah.
been there. We know what it feels like to be in that dark place. And at times it's ironic because looking back at those moments, it's almost obvious, right? There's
Hmm.
such an obviousness to where you find your way out of the hole. And you pointed to one that you're not really in the hole alone. It just feels like you're alone. It feels like
Yeah.
that darkness is engulfing you and there's nobody there to help. But the moment you're seeking that help, or you're open to receiving it, which I think is even more the point, because people sometimes seek help, I really believe, but aren't really open to the to the receiving. They just
Yeah.
sort of desperate and needy and coming from a place of victimhood. But when you really do have that humility to say, I want help, I want to have help, and I'm willing to receive that help, then, as you said, it's like the lights, it's like a switch. Lights come on and go, okay, so this thing I'm making up is, the whole it's
Yeah.
really just, it's like a set in Hollywood. It's just a set. You're on the
Yeah.
set of this movie, and it's like the Truman Show. You go, oh, okay, I get it now. It's interesting, right? But you can't
Yeah.
see that from inside that place, that dark place. So what I did hear you say was that part of how you got out of it was incrementally. Was it a book? Was it a person? Do you remember what the catalyst was? The sort of the first domino that started tipping the others over?
Yeah, at the time my brother was going through, like, he lost his job in terms of what he was doing, and he was starting something for himself, and he was down this path of self-improvement and finding mentors and things like that. And one day he kind of came to me. It was like, hey, like, why don't you watch this video? And it was a video of Grant Cardone. He's very intense, but it kind of like opened my eyes to what is outside of what I'm looking at. And it was amazing to be able to just look at someone who's so confident and sure of what it is that they're doing. And so, like, you can just tell when someone speaks and they're sure about themselves, you hear it, right? You don't have to question, is this person being real? Like when they're saying that I own 5 Ferraris and my business makes $10 million, like, is that real? Like, that's what is this person behind this mic? Is it a real person telling me a real story? And for him, his conviction and what he was saying was real. And that sort of one video that I watched, that I think was 5 minutes long, led me to watching another and another. And it led me down to watching, other videos about, different people in terms of not only business, but just life. So it was that one sort of moment by my brother just kind of leaking something very, small to me, is what really kickstarted, what I'm doing.
Yeah, way cool, way cool. And you mentioned self-awareness and preparation, and obviously you're in a different space now. What you're up to, and I'm really curious about the storytelling aspect of it, and how
Mhm.
it is that you incorporate storytelling into sales. And so that this what we're tracking is the pivot out of what was a sort of a career choice made at 3 years old, and I say that with a smile, right? So we can all laugh at at not just the irony of that, at the almost like go, are you effing kidding me? Seriously, I don't. Well, this show, I think we get an explicit rating anyway. So are you fucking kidding me? It's like 3 years old, making a career choice at 3, but it becomes a story in and of itself. And when I was listening to you, I was thinking and wrote down golf story identity. That from some early age for you, the identity, the story that was being created about your identity was you're a professional golfer, which took you a long way. Except here it is 9 holes into a tournament and 4 over, 4 under. I mean, whatever it is, you just go, this is not my identity. I mean, this
Mhm.
is not really my identity. And if it is my identity, well, man, this is tough. This is a lot more work than life should feel like in this moment. Does that resonate
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
absolutely. It sucks. Like when you're in that moment, you realize it, and it may have been a little later than 3, but it was sort of like I'd always been into sports. But yeah, it's like that realization to know, like, you have to look outside your box. Like your life is so small; it's a bubble. Look outside of it. When you look outside of it, you maybe will not put yourself in the same situation that I was in.
Yeah. Well, the story piece is really intriguing because now your work is about storytelling. So share a little bit about where you're, where that pivot has now led you, what you're excited about in that, in the storytelling piece.
Yeah. So, I mean, it started when I was working, like I still work with my father, Paul, and the beginning he was doing business plans, and, we were seeing some success, and people that came through, they were really succeeding with it. But I think the struggle with any business is obscurity, right? Like, how do you get yourself out of obscurity? And over time, what we found is, like, people don't buy your products and services, they buy more who you are. So when you're trying to talk about what you do, or you're trying to talk about your company or your services, like, people really don't care all that much. Like, they don't care as much as you do about your process. So I was we go through that process, you get people on the phone, and, we were selling at around, 30%. If we had 10 calls, we'd sell 3. But I knew that, like, we can help more people. We just have to get our message across more clearly. So again, I started to understand that. I'm like, obviously my sales process and what I'm doing isn't where it needs to be, because obviously people aren't hearing me. So I started to do some research and educate myself and follow some people. And what I found is exactly like that. People are more buying who we are as a company. So I started to translate that more in our sales process, talking about, instead of just a business plan, like, this is a document that's going to be flowing and you can actually use it going forward. And we understand that when people came to a business plan, they weren't looking for a business plan. They're essentially looking for money. So when you start transitioning those things into what you're saying, and not just, here's a document, we do the financials, we do the written part, and at the end, you're going to be able to go to a bank or investor and it's going to be awesome. Like, being able to walk someone through and understand what their business is. What are your goals? What are you doing now? If you're a startup, where do you want to be? Why do you want to be doing that? And then creating a plan that is able to move and flow. Because in business, like, things change, right? Like, things change on a daily basis. You know that, right?
And like on a minute to minute basis. I mean,
yeah, like, what you think is working may not be working, but that's being conscious. Like, when you're conscious and you understand, okay, things are working, but what can I do now in order to improve upon this? Like, you don't ever want to change when you're like, things work, now they don't, now I need to make a change. It's like constantly being able to improve and get better. That's the goal. So you never go through that. And that led into sort of storytelling. And it goes in now with the webinar that we do. And it's being able to just break false belief patterns of what people are believing, reintroduce new ones. And the main goal of what we try to do and what I try to do is make people believe through storytelling that what it is that I do is exactly what they need and want. And the only way to get that is through our vehicle that we have. And if you can do that through telling stories and being compelling and sharing examples, and it's not being pushy in the sense of, this is for everyone, because it's not. Like, we work with a specific number of people because we know that we can help those people. And if you can tell a story in order to compel those people to go through and purchase your products and services, it's only going to help them. So you have a service, you actually are compelled to actually help somebody. Like, I want to help somebody that I can help. Other people, it's just not going to work. And then obviously going through that process with them becomes much more enjoyable because they understand what it is that you do, why you're doing it, and they know who you are. They're not going into it like, you know what, I spent thousands of dollars, but is this going to work? Like, they now believe that it's going to work. And when someone believes that it's going to work, it becomes much easier and a much more enjoyable process because it ends up most likely working for them.
Yeah, I agree with you 1,000%. I mean, it's, I wrote down, people are buying who you are more than they are buying what you do. I don't want to say they don't care about what you do, because that would be, I wouldn't be truthful if I said that, because I don't buy that myself. But but more often they're buying you, and they're buying the story that about you, which is also really, really important. So it better be. This is my advice to everybody listening, watching. Better be an authentic story. There's a lot of BS stories out there, and I'll just say it's important from our standpoint. So we do speaker training for people who want to be public speakers, and that includes everything from leading a webinar or doing virtual trainings on Zoom or doing live keynotes and things like that. And authenticity is the key. to me, more than anything else, the art and the science of public speaking is about you being who you are, your true presence, to be present and to be a presence on stage or in front of people. The authentic you, that's presence, is your first and last and job in between as well. I mean, it's the whole enchilada. And that is all about what you're saying. That's who you are. Right. So, and we love as a collective global culture, we value stories. It's been the quintessential form of education from the very beginning. Even when at some point, I guess, we were telling our stories on cave walls. So, it's a big deal. So it's really exciting that's the approach that you're taking to this. And so typically on your show, what's the gist and what's the goal? Because I'm actually going to be a guest on your show, so I'm excited about that. I'd love to know a little bit more about what it is you're looking to get out of those engagements with people.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I started the show because I thought, like I said, getting out of obscurity, being able to share your message and your story and interview other people, there's no better time to be an entrepreneur than right now, because there's so many different avenues. Look at what we're doing now. It's a video, audio podcast. Like, it's amazing how many people this could potentially be in front of.
Yeah,
right?
And sometimes it's being streamed live on Facebook. Yeah. I mean, there's all this other stuff going on.
Yeah, like, it's crazy what you can do. So, I mean, for me, my goal at the beginning of it was, let's get more business for my clients, get my name out there. But now it's sort of shifted. It's kind of taken on its own sort of world. It's become its own business. And I look to interview people like yourself and other successful entrepreneurs in hopes to inspire the next great entrepreneur. Because I think there's so many people out there who are either unhappy in their current situation. They're stuck in that daily grind. That's why I call it the daily grind. They're stuck in that daily grind. They don't know how to get out, right? They don't know what they should be doing. And just hearing this story of like other people were in a similar position. They've all felt what you're feeling. And here's how they got out of it. Here's what they're doing now. Here's who they are. It kind of opens your eyes a little bit to be like, you know what? I can do this. I can take what I really want and love to do, and I can start just doing it right now. And those little small steps will lead to what I want. So that's really what I love about the show. And it's, for me, selfishly, every day I get to speak with amazing people, and I learn something every day. Like, I have a notepad that I just constantly write stuff down as I'm learning and listening, because I understand that these people are ahead of me. And that's the beauty of it. They're ahead of me, they're ahead of my listeners, and they can provide that insight and information, which will hopefully take that one person out there who is really unhappy and change that situation for them in order for them to start feeling that happiness.
Yeah. We're all in the process of reinventing
yeah.
I mean, and that's because change is the cosmic law for manifestation in the universe. New things don't manifest without a change occurring. And often it's the death of something. It's the end of something that signals and is the birth of something else. So it's that whole process. In fact, one of the things we were talking about studying this weekend was spiral dynamics, which really blew my mind too, because I hadn't had a whole lot of my own education in that subject matter. So we had a researcher and a top trainer in that field was leading us through some exercises in spiral dynamics. Yeah, it's way cool stuff. I mean, and it informs the way I look at people's pivots and the way that they are changing in their careers or their lives, is sometimes a blind exercise, unfortunately. That's why you said at the beginning, you have to have other people that assist you, because otherwise you're blind in the process, which makes it painful and frustrating and longer than it has to be. It just doesn't have to be as torturous or as long a road as some folks make it out, especially today where tools and resources are everywhere for us. I mean, it's just no excuse that we're in our own way. And entrepreneurship is very much not about being alone. It is about leveraging the tools of the universe that are everywhere around. So, last question I want to ask you, Colin, is relative to rituals, because I would imagine that the preparation that it took to be a great golfer. I mean, you were probably an under par golfer, and meaning like for those of you that are not golfers, that's good. Under par is not under average. All right. That's like better than scratch and all. So there was a lot of preparation. What are the rituals that you have to prepare for yourself for either the work that you're currently doing or to be the, quote, best version of yourself in the moment that you can be?
Yeah. So, I mean, every day, let's talk about, say, on a daily basis, right? Like this is something that I like to do. I'll wake up in the morning, whatever time that is. I try to keep it around 7, sometimes it's 7:30, sometimes it's 8, but that's life, right? We're all human. But I wake up and the first thing I do is I put my phone aside because I want to be just not thinking about work. It's more about myself and preparing myself, just like I did in golf. You practice every day for one tournament. For me, it's the same way. I practice in the morning so that when I do turn on my work life, I'm prepared and ready to perform, which is big. So, I mean, the first thing I do is I love sports still. So I check sports and it gets my mind off of work. Like for me, that's a way to kind of check out and say, you know what, I'm going to start my day off this way. And I look at some sports. Next is I make a cup of coffee, bulletproof coffee. I'm gonna plug that in.
Yeah,
and
Dave Asprey's a friend, so
yeah,
we're cool. We're cool with that. He's actually gonna be on the show really soon.
That's awesome. And I have a cup of coffee and I do my daily gratitude. I look at where I am in life and I say, what am I thankful for? How healthy I am, just everything in my life. I take time to be thankful in the present, take time to be thankful in the past and in the future. Like what do I currently have and what am I going to have, and be thankful for those things. And I think that's something that is truly important, because I think that in 2018, I mean, it's so easy to look online and compare yourself or look at someone else and say that they have more, you have less. And to be able to just be thankful for what you have and where you are in life, I mean, it's really powerful. And then I take that time to be thankful and I go through about 30 minutes to an hour of either reading or listening to a podcast. And then I schedule out my day. So I take time I look at the top 3 things that I need to accomplish in my day. And in my journal, I write those out. What do I want to accomplish? What are the time frames that I want to get these things done? And I ensure that I get those done first. And then I look beyond that and I say, okay, what else can I do today? And sometimes I have 10 things on the list, but sometimes I only get 3, 4 done. But that's all right, because I got my top 3 done. And that's really the key to it. When you have so many things on your to-do list, like everyone has so many tasks to complete, they don't know where to start. And they do, a half-assed job at 10 of them instead of doing a really good job at 3 of them. And once I started doing that, like specifically 3 things, for me, that's what works. Then I started to find a little bit more freedom in my life, and I can do things that I really enjoy to do outside of work and outside of what I'm doing. I get to, go watch a hockey game tonight. I'm a big Leaf fan because I'm Canadian, for anyone listening. So I get to go watch a nice Leaf game tonight. So it's just having the freedom of doing those things. I mean, it's amazing, but it's sort of that early morning routine of getting myself set up for the day, making sure that I complete the tasks that I need to complete. That's truly important for me. And then being gracious and grateful for where I am and who I am.
Yeah, that's a beautiful recipe that you laid out. Couple of things that I want to just follow the thread for a moment on. You're putting the phone aside in the morning. I think this is a big deal. We were just with Dr. Joe Dispenza. I guess that's his name, Dr. Okay. Joe Dispenza. And Joe's work is really cool. I recommend it. He's done a great job of looking at the science behind how it is that we habitually do what we do, why we feel what we feel, our emotions that create a lot of the doing in our lives. And one of the things that I remember him saying was the habit of picking up that phone. And other people have talked about this, but for so many years, I have left my phone downstairs. So, I'm married and my wife is the more responsible of the two of us. I think anybody that knows us personally knows that to be the case. Because to me, I don't have to have my phone beside the bed because she does. And I'm just saying it for what it is, because if the kids were to call in the middle of the night, which they never do, but it could happen. And people have gotten those calls in the middle of the night, and we don't have a landline anymore like so many people.
Yeah.
So she's got her cell phone right next to the bed. So it's not a thing about the cell phone being next to the bed or anything, but that idea that when you wake up, that you start to put yourself right back into uh, the grind, if you will, to use your word, or the rat race, as I used to call it. But
Mm-hmm.
it's the idea that we're habitually trained to use that device, and we get things from it. So we get a feeling of approval and appreciation, and there's other uh, uh, things that are triggered through social media that are of an addictive nature. I mean, we're producing a lot of our biochemistry by the reaction that we have to things that we read on Facebook or other social media platforms. So picking it up right out of the gate puts you right back in a pattern, and often that pattern is really more about stuff in your head than it is about feeling and being authentic in the feeling space, in your heart space even. So to have the phone be not the thing you start the day with, other than if it's to hit the alarm, to snooze or to stop the alarm, so be it. But to be checking email, God forbid, or your text messages, or your social media stuff right out of the gate, I think is a challenge. So
Big
were you going to
challenge.
say something? Yeah. So the fact that you don't do that, but that you start with things like daily gratitude, that you have an appreciation, and you cultivate appreciation, that you're also doing something that is for your enjoyment. So you've got this ritual of looking at sports because it's something you enjoy, and it lightens, just good way to check in on the games and things or whatever. And that's for you. That's an act of self-care, which is, I think, a really great ritual to cultivate, is care for yourself, whatever that looks like. And this idea that tackling the three things early in the day. So many people procrastinate, put off those things till much later. I'm recovering procrastinator myself. So at a certain point, I don't remember where I learned this, but that there's a critical inch to the day. What's the critical inch in the day? And those can be represented by those 2 or 3 most important tasks, and put the critical inch at the front of the day, as opposed to, after I've cleared out my email, I've cleared my desk, I've done this errand or that errand, I've gone to the gym, any of the other things that we would maybe put ahead of the toughest thing, which might be to make a phone call, to spend some time with your accountant, your lawyer, to make a sales call, whatever it is. So I think these are all really, really important rituals. And I appreciate very much, Colin, that you, not only that you have them, but that they've shared them with our group, our community.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I love everything that you're saying. And I agree 100% that, and I think a lot of times, just to build on that a little bit, like, people view quantity as like, oh, I got all this stuff done today. It was amazing. And I look back and I'm like, I used to hit balls for 5-6 hours a day, but my best practice days were like 30 minutes long, because I had a purpose to what I was doing, and it was quality. So I value quality over quantity every day of the week.
Yeah, that's key. So part of your preparation when you were a golfer was not necessarily to hit 1,000 balls, but to have, if it was 30 minutes of real focused quality practice time, that was more effective in your experience.
It was more. That's not something that I did. I look back and I'm like, I wish I did that. But I look back at all the times that I did have success, and it was during those times where I was focused on just one thing. I'm gonna work on my putting today. That's it. And then that's when I started seeing, that's when I had my results in golf. That's when I used to win tournaments and things like that. But when you try to do everything, like you said, things lack, and it's not quality.
Yeah, there's a word to describe this, and it's a dirty word in my world and around our house, and that's the word busy. There's a lot of busy people, and busy makes, I guess, for a lot of folks, feels like you're getting stuff done. And so if you feel productive, then you must be productive somehow because you feel productive. But it really is it's sort of a lie that we tell ourselves, that somehow doing more means we're going to be producing more of what we want. Yeah. So busy just leads to busy, and I've changed that word for myself. Other than saying it in this context, I catch myself and I will literally spit. I go find someplace and spit if I say the word busy, because it's just, ugh. But active and, energized and engaged and dynamic. I mean, there's a lot of other words that can describe, how it is that you're you're feeling or what your business world is like. And I think more important that when you stop using that word busy, you just erase it from your vocabulary, but instead you focus on what are those few things I could do and do them well, is what you're sharing, as opposed
Yeah.
to just this broad array of things to get done and tick off a list. There's a results change that you'll see. So, Colin, what a pleasure to have you on the show today. Thank you so much for sharing your experience and being vulnerable and your wisdom as well.
Adam, thank you for having me. It was an absolute pleasure. And I hope that something I said today will really resonate with someone to make that positive, conscious pivot in their life.
Oh, beautiful. Nice tie back, buddy. Love that. So in the show notes, we will have information about what you're up to, about the Daily Grind Business Podcast, information about you and your webinar and things like that. So in the show notes, folks, you'll be able to find more about Colin. Want to bring our show today to a close. And as we say, or I say a lot, it's never an ending. I don't believe in endings, it's just a new beginning. So this is literally the extension of where we left off last time. And of course, we'll pick up with the next show soon. But for now, I want to remind everybody, and I get to do this. This is one of the privileges of having the mic, both a reminder to myself, a reminder to all of you, how important it is that we are immersed in gratitude. That gratitude is the thing that offsets, that is a counter. I don't want to use the balance, I guess, counterbalancing, but it's really something that brings us back to equilibrium, to a more in medical terms, I think it's homeostasis, but this harmony inside of ourselves. How do we bring ourselves back to harmony when we are spending so much time in that fight or flight, that reaction mode, and we produce that cortisol that is so debilitating to our bodies and our minds and other aspects of our being as well. And gratitude is the answer. Having the habit of gratitude is so important. And in fact, it's the things that we appreciate that appreciate. It's interesting, if your money is appreciating in the bank, if your portfolio is appreciating, we know it's increasing in value. So the things that we appreciate actually appreciate. And it's kind of a fun thing to, and miraculous in many ways to see. So what is it that you are in appreciation for in this moment? I certainly am in appreciation for Colin's presence. Colin, did you want to say something?
Yeah, you know what? I just wanted to say thank you to you. I think what you're doing is fantastic. And just like you said, just be gracious and be grateful for what you have. And everyone listening, like there's someone out there who's going through pain or defeat, or they have something in their life that's just eating at them. And just know that you are a beautiful person. You can do great things. You're not like this bubble and this thing that you're stuck in. You can get out of it just coming from someone who is there. And just know that there's some amazing people out there. Just reach out, ask for help, and you'll get it.
Awesome. Thank you, Colin. Way cool. I'm going to wave my magic wand then. And here's what my wish, my hope, my prayer is for all of us. Colin, for you, for your family, for me, my family, for everybody who's watching, everybody who's listening, for all of you and all of your family and your friends. And really, it's my wish for everybody in the world, even that we all wake up tomorrow, that we are not guaranteed to wake up. We woke up today. That's how you're listening. So as Colin said, no matter what challenges you're facing or have, we all have them. Just hello, duh. I know it's hard to realize that, but we all have challenges, and you don't want to trade your challenges for someone else's. But you are awake. And that is precious, because in this moment, even now, as we take a breath, whatever you're doing, as you're taking this conscious breath, as I'm doing the same, there are people right this moment who are taking their very last breath on earth. There are also babies being born who are taking their very first breath, which makes this moment sacred. When you wake up tomorrow, when you wake up with the understanding, the appreciation that is a sacred moment. It's a holy moment when you take that breath, because again, same thing, people will be taking their last breath in that moment. So there's a very important purpose for you being here, and a very important reason. And regardless of whether you know what that is, you can just sit in a moment of gratitude, in a moment of appreciation for the breath you're taking. So step one, you wake up. That's what I want you all to agree to do. Everybody just on your own right now. Nod up and down, raise your hand, whatever it is, and say, yeah, I'm going to wake up tomorrow. I'm going to wake up my consciousness. I'm going to wake up metaphorically and physically, and I'm going to be in appreciation in that moment for that waking breath. And lastly, if you're inclined, if you feel like it, if you want to do it, declare out loud something that will change your life in so many ways. It has changed my life. I've been saying it for about 10 years now. I've gotten to share it with so many people around the world. And the words that I declare every day are, I love my life. I love my life. I love my life. I hope you do as well. I'm so blessed and feel so grateful and gracious. That word's coming up too. Graced by the fact that you are part of this community. Our community is growing wildly and wild in so many ways because people are being so authentic, so vulnerable. And if you want to be even deeper into this community, then of course, if you haven't subscribed to the podcast, go ahead and do that. Please leave a review on iTunes. We're going to be doing a really cool sweepstakes soon as well for those reviews. We're going to be giving away one of our amazing programs. We'll let you know more about that, so stay tuned. And lastly, come on board at our Facebook community group. You will be blown away by some of the really cool stuff you're going to learn and ways that you can receive great tools and resources, and you can also give, which we know how great it feels to be a giver. And you can get there by going to pivotfb.com, pivotfb.com. That's the Start My Pivot community on Facebook. Look forward to connecting with all of you there. And I'll just say for now, I love you. We're sending you lots of love. And ciao. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening, everyone. We hope you now have the tools and greater insights to navigate your own pivot. Help us inspire others by sharing this episode and leaving your comments over at adammarkel.com/podcasts. For more tips, strategies, and support as you consciously pivot into a new business and lifestyle you love, join our Pivot community on Facebook at pivotfb.com.